Hello again and welcome to the Mordian Mondays. This is episode 65 and this week, guys, I have been very productive because I managed to get 30 Japanese infantry done for my bolt action force in 1 week. This is probably the most models I've got done in 1 week in years. I normally sort of limit myself or push myself even to getting 10 models done in a week, and yeah, I was able to do a lot more than that, 3 times that. So a couple of reasons why I was able to do this. Firstly, I took a week off beforehand. Basically, I didn't paint anything for a week, and I thought, I just want to push myself. I really wanted to get into the orcs, but I thought, you know, let's just take a week off and just let the natural itch to paint build up. So that was the first thing I did. Took it a little easy for a week. Second thing I did is to be honest, these models look great from a distance, but they look very rough up close and personal. So essentially, I did one thin coat on nearly all of the models. Not one thick coat, not 2 thin coats, one thin coat. So what I did is I base coated, so I just kept it really, really simple. And I said to myself, you know what? These are not my Mordians. My Mordians are my flagship poster boy army. I paint each one of those to the absolute best of my ability. I try not to compromise at all. If there's the occasional slightly thick edge highlight, fine, that's as much as I'll let myself get away with. But, you know, I do all the facial hair, I do different colours for hair, I do different skin colours, all this kind of stuff. Different toning, so some of them I'll do slightly heavier brown wash on the skin tone, some I'll do slightly lighter. Same with the darker skinned people as well. So it's, you know, my Mordians I put a lot of effort into. And about action, I was thinking, well, these guys are not my main flagship army. They need to be tabletop ready, and they need to be at a point where they look good from a distance on a battle report, because that's what the bolt action guys are for. They're going to be my bolt action battle report army. So my Mordians are more of I'm doing this to push myself and to paint the best I can possibly paint, and my bolt action are tabletop ready. And last time I didn't really remember that with my Japanese. So I was with the last batch of infantry. So I said, this time I'm going to do proper batch painting, speed painting. So I did 30 guys batch paint. That means I did 30 of all one colour on them, then moved on to the next colour 30 at a time. Which was, yeah, I've done that once before with Gene Silicol, and it's tricky. So how was I able to achieve this, you know, quite fast speed? So what I did was I base coated them all in the right primary colour. So in this case, Xandri Dust, and that was it. Where there was, you know, bits where the base coat hadn't quite covered, I didn't go over that. I just left it, because you know where the base coat didn't sometimes quite get in all the right places, in the bits that were hard to reach, and the bits that are hard to reach are the bits that are hard to see. So, you know, so I thought, hang on, you know, the wash will, you know, cover, you know, there's still a bit of a speckle of base coat in certain areas, and the wash will cover the rest of it up. So I did Xandri Dust 1 base coat. The only thing I did 2 thin coats on was the green. So the green got 2 thin coats because, mostly because of the helmets. The helmet is, after the Xandri Dust, the helmet is the bit that you're going to see the most. So I had to make sure that was really, really crisp and smooth. So I did that, and also because it's a darker colour and it's not a brown, it's a green. If I only did one thin coat on that bit, the base coat would have been showing through a lot. Whereas on the other colours, it's browns or silvers. They're light colours over a light base coat, so the light base coat doesn't show through as much at all. So what I did was quite simply 2 thin coats of green, then did 1 thin coat of the light brown on all the equipment and the boots and stuff, and then did the rifles, did the brown first, then did the silver. And if the silver spilt over a bit, I didn't worry about it too much. I just didn't worry about it. If I didn't get the silver on the gun rings that go round the barrel, you know, I don't know what it's called, but round the front part of the gun, you've got this little metal rings. If they were a bit smudgy, a bit splodgy, I just didn't worry about it, because again, from a distance, they look absolutely fine. And I was planning on doing quite a heavy wash. and I was trusting on the wash to cover up most of my mistakes, and it did. Long story short, it did. So I did all the tan and skin in a relatively thick coat of Seraphim Sepia, and then I did everything else in a very thick coat of Norn oil, and it really covered it all up. It really worked. So yeah, I was really proud of how these models turned out. It didn't take me long at all. The basing was just PVA glue and flock, which was really good. Starting to really dig. I used to not use PVA glue for my basing because I just didn't. I was just lazy. I used to just use paint, so I'd do a big thick layer of, like, which you can do. For those who are starting out, you don't need to get PVA glue. You can just use a thick layer of like black paint or brown paint and dip your models in, and the flock will stick to it and it will dry on, and it will eventually brush off. Like on my Black Templars, maybe 3 years later now, 2 or 3 years later, the flock's starting to come off a little bit, but you just can't really tell because it's grey flock on a black base, so you don't notice it. But the point is, you can do it that way. But this time I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to use PVA. It'll stick to it. It looks better. And one thing I found with the bolt action models is and this particular flock that I'm using is that it doesn't stick very well to paint. So I thought, you know what, I'll do PVA. It actually turned out to save time because you're not worried about the paint drying and then you're rushing it, blah blah. So with the PVA, you've got all the time you need. So it can be smoothly put on all the edges of the base. And you might think, well, that if you've got more time, you're slower. No. One of the best expressions that someone has ever taught me is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's something that I use every single day. In fact, one of my friends in the military taught me that. And you know, it's such a great saying. Like, if you rush something, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to take you longer. If you take your time over something, you do it smoothly, and then you only have to do it once, and then you actually end up being much quicker. And I think it's a really, not to get deeper, you know, Mordian's life lessons is a really good life lesson. So slow, smooth, fast. So with the paint, I was able to rush it because I knew my mistakes were going to get covered up. With the basing, I knew if I just took my time and did it once, it would be nice and quick. And it actually, yeah, that is what happened. It did work out really well. So 30 infantry done, boom, in 1 week. All I have left to finish my Japanese force and finish them to a moderately competitive level is a single medium tank, a Kai Shinto Chi-Ha medium tank, which is the up-gunned version of the Chi-Ha Type 97. The difference is that it has a proper medium anti-tank gun. My current anti-tank complement is just, before this tank, is just rubbish. I have the Ha-Go, which is a low velocity anti-tank gun, which means it is means it's like a really weak anti-tank gun. And then I had an anti-tank rifle, which is rubbish. And then I had a medium anti-tank gun, which was good, but because it wasn't mobile, it always seemed to get outmaneuvered, which meant it was bad. And then I had a couple of the suicide anti-tank guys as well, which were funny but tended to be a bit of a problem. So what I needed was a tank that could kill other tanks just reliably. It was just, I needed a jack of all trades vehicle, and so I got the Kai Shinto Chi-Ha, which is basically it's a medium tank. So it's not. I mean, it's barely a medium tank. It's only got toughness. It's only got armor 8+. Like a lot of medium tanks will have armor 9. But then the heavy tanks will have armor 10 or armor 9, with reducing penetration by 1 on the front, like the Panther. But it's a nice medium tank. It's got decent armor 8. It's essentially a Panzer III. It is essentially a Panzer III with a medium anti-tank gun, but it's the Japanese one. So I've actually made some good progress that I'm already done the funky camouflage pattern on it. So I'll probably have that finished easily this week, and then all I have left to do after that is to paint 3 little spotters. Now they are metal, so I'll need to do them properly, otherwise the metal base coat will show through and it's much more obvious than when on a plastic model. But yeah, by and large, it's that's it. 1 tank, which I'd argue is already 50% done, and 3 infantry. And that's my plan to get that done. And then my bolt action will be completed. And for the first time, I think ever, in my gaming, wargaming, tabletop gaming career, I will be able to say, mission accomplished, army finished. And the great thing about bolt action is that when you finish an army, it stays finished. It's not like 40k with its planned obsolescence, where every 6 months to a year the meta shifts and your army, which you thought was finished and that was doing well and was semi-competitive to competitive, suddenly gets the rug pulled out from underneath it and you need to go and buy some other models. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen with bolt action. My brother has the same German army from when he started bolt action, when it pretty much first came out in bolt action first edition, which is many years ago. It must be 4, 5, 6 years ago now. It must be. It's, you know, it was bolt. We were looking at bolt action in 6th and 7th. I think it was 6th edition 40k. Might have been 7th edition, but those editions were so close. There's only like a year and a half difference between them. So yeah, basically back in 6th edition was when bolt action came out. My brother has had the same German army that entire time, and it is still relevant today. His codex hasn't changed. If the rulebook has changed slightly, but it's more just a tweaking of the rules than anything. And his army is very competitive. He has been to bolt action tournaments with it. Admittedly local ones. We're talking, you know, about 20 people at each event, but he's been to 2 or 3 of them back in the day, and he always placed in, I think, in the top 8. So that's pretty good for an army. You know, can in 40k are there many armies you can say that were in the top 8? You know, 5 years ago that are still in the top 8 now? Probably not, man. Probably not. So anyway, so my bolt action army will be finished, and then I think I might have this as the year of finishing projects. So then I might need to finish my Gene Stealer cult. They're very close to being finished, but I feel like with my cult, there's a risk that I need to expand the army, and I'm just not sure if I want to put money into them. They're really good. They're really, really good, but it's one of those things with my cult, and we are going off on a bit of a ramble now. That's pretty much it for the Japanese stuff. So just going off on a bit of what's going through old Mordian's noggin. With the Gene Circle, it's one of those ones, when I originally started the project, I wanted to do it as a proper guard force, but you know, they happened to have a few extra thumbs, but it was pretty much a guard force. And then when the new codex dropped and a lot of the new models came out, I got a little bit tempted to the dark side, and I did buy more combat stuff. And then I ended up with an army that didn't really do either one very well. It had a core of guard-like units, things like trucks with neophytes, and I do have about 100 neophytes in that army, but they're not quite right, and they're not all finished. Some of them require basing, and then I've got bikers, and I don't quite have enough trucks to make it work, or quite enough Achilles Ridge Runners to make it work. And yeah, it's just a little, but I've got some close combat stuff, but not really enough. It's just a little. It's a very well balanced force. It is a very well balanced force, but it's just not what I originally had in mind for the army. So what I'm thinking of doing this year, maybe, depends how enthusiastic I can be, this year, is to finish that Gene Stealer cult militant force, that hive cult army, and you know, I've got another truck in box, you know, get myself up to 6 trucks, get myself up to maybe 6 Achilles Ridge Runners. It's just, get myself up to maybe another 80 infantry or something. Get myself up to that choice where I've got 180 infantry and all the vehicles that I need. Maybe it's either that, or do I just accept the fact that my Gene Stealer cult force is always going to be a bit meh? It's never going to be able to quite do exactly what it wants to do. So it's always going to be a bit like, oh, if you get a win, it'll be, you know, it'll be nice, but don't expect it, kind of thing. It's tricky. I don't know. Maybe I'll wait to see if they get a new codex, and if they do, what's in it. But like then that's the wrong mentality to have. A lot of people are saying wait for new codex before you buy anything. You know what? I don't agree with that, because codex, you know, to quote the great, you know, Slim Shady, codexes, they come, they go. But there's one, you know, there's one thing that I know. It's like, I probably butchered that quote. So any Eminem fans out there, I'm very sorry. I'm clearly not a super fan. But the point is, it's, yeah. Do I just go for the? Do I just finish that army off? Maybe. The one army I can say that is pretty much finished is my Steel Legion, but there is a handful, maybe 20 infantry that aren't finished. So maybe that, if I'm going on a round robin of let's finish off some armies, you know, maybe I should finish book action, then finish Steel Legion. Maybe they have got a bit better now with the latest points changes, but again, I'm not even thinking about points changes these days, guys. It's a constantly shifting and changing landscape. I think the best thing you can do is just pick your army, build it up the way you like it, and just get good with that one army, and just become a veteran of that list. You don't change your list. If the points go up and go down a little bit, fine, but you don't change the core of your list, and you just get really, really hardcore with your one list to the point where you know exactly what it can do in every single game. I think that's the way you win 9th edition now. I think chasing the meta, it's hard. I mean, what meta? Because I mean, there's barely any games going on in the UK. Although I guess, you know, the UK is not the whole world. But you know, even so, chasing the meta, I think, is so difficult now. It changes too damn quick. It just does. I think you are better now just getting really good with one list, and chasing the meta is like, by the time you get round to that, you know, even if you get someone to build and paint your models for you, by the time you get round to it, you might get a few events under your belt, but then it just changes again. I don't know. I think I'm really starting to knuckle down to this idea of just build your list, get good, and just stick with it. I think that's the best thing you can do. Especially with 40k getting a bit more complicated these days. It's a bit of a tricky one to be able to balance multiple forces in your head. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think? Maybe I should go back to my mornings after this, but I'm definitely going to paint my orcs up after I've finished my bot action. Get the orcs painted. Just, yeah, I mean, I think what's happened with the Mordian Restoration Project, it's definitely not stopped, guys. No way, shape or form. I've got 40 infantry stripped down, restored, and ready to be base coated as we speak. I think what it is it's just like I've got the army to a point where I can run multiple variations of a pure infantry Mordian army. So it's like, okay, we've made it. It's good for battle reports. It's good for me. Awesome. And I think now I've basically, the pressure's off a little bit, and I'm like, okay, let me just go and explore a few other things, and then I'll come back to the Mordians. I always do this. I always spend like a month or two just absolutely smashing the Mordians. But maybe I should just get into the flow of it. I don't know. Bit of a rambling one, guys. You know what I'd really appreciate? Bit of feedback from you guys. What do you think? I think finish the bot action. Got to get the orcs done. You know, the missus got me to start collecting orcs for Christmas, and it's only right by her to make sure they're all painted up before I move on to anything else. But yeah, I think, yeah, I want to be able to, what I want to do, I really appreciate some feedback, and what I'm in the context of what I want to do is when lockdown eventually ends, which should be March, which is in a couple of months, about 10 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks, I want to come out of lockdown when I'm able to meet up and do battle reports again, and I just want to be able to have loads of different armies available. I want the gaming room's going to be done, the studio's going to be done, and I'm going to have bot action available. I'm going to have, you know, Xenos armies available to play. I just really want to be able to hit the ground running on the battle reports after after this lockdown ends. And I think that's what I want to do. I want to have a good G-Cult army in place, a good Guard army in place, and a good Orc army in place. God, that's all. Just get 3 armies sorted out. That'll be fine. Anyway, guys, we'll leave it there because I am just rambling. But that's what the Mordian Mondays is. It's a bit of a stream of consciousness. It's a sneak peek into my brain, what's going through it at the moment. A chance for you guys to steer that mad sleigh ride that is my consciousness. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.